In the remote, wind-scoured wilderness of China's Qinghai province, a mystery lies partially buried beneath the slopes of Mount Baigong. It was here, at the turn of the millennium, that a group of researchers stumbled upon a formation that defied all immediate explanation. Jutting from the rust-colored rock face were dozens of metallic pipe-like structures, their open mouths exhaling the silence of millennia. Some of these pipes are as thin as a bamboo shoot, while others stretch to a diameter that a grown person could crawl through. They vanish deep into the mountain's heart, a tangled vascular system frozen in iron and stone, threading toward a nearby saltwater lake. At first glance, the scene looks like the shattered remains of an industrial plumbing system, abandoned and swallowed by the desert. But the true shock settles in when you realize this landscape has been untouched by modern heavy machinery for countless centuries. The pipes are embedded in the sandstone, meaning they were there long before the first shovel of our age ever broke ground. A triangular formation nearby, often described as a weathered pyramid, adds an unsettling architectural note to the desolation. The initial tests only deepened the anomaly, as the composition of these pipes told a startling story. Analysis revealed a blend of ferric oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide, fused with a curious amount of seemingly organic residue. Even more provocative, around 8% of the pipe material defied classification, a ghost in the chemical spectrum. Radioisotope dating offered fragmented whispers of extreme antiquity, placing the formation of these structures tens of thousands of years before the dawn of Chinese civilization. The scientific instruments confirmed a single haunting truth: the Baigong pipes are physically real, and they genuinely are very, very old. The mountain itself holds the pipes in a tight embrace, spitting them out at odd angles from the cliff face and cavern entrances. Walking through this parched valley, the metallic protrusions catch the low sun like exposed bones of a buried leviathan. From a distance, they resemble a fossilized mechanical nervous system, spreading through the rock in chaotic, non-geological patterns. To the untrained eye, the arrangement suggests a deliberate, almost channeled network rather than a random act of nature. Local shepherds had known about these strange metal fingers for generations, weaving them into quiet legends of a forgotten sky-born beast. But it was the Chinese scientific expedition in the late 1990s that truly dragged this enigma from the realm of folklore into the harsh light of inquiry. They discovered that the pipes do not merely exist on the exterior, but burrow deep into the mountain's internal cavities. One particular cave near the lake shore contains a dense cluster of these rusty tubes, descending straight into the earth as if draining something long gone. The smooth, uniform nature of the inner walls struck many as suspiciously artificial, lacking the jagged chaos of a natural fissure. For a civilization that supposedly only mastered irons, smelting, around 3,000 years ago, the presence of these deep metal shafts is a chronological impossibility. Pieces of the surrounding rock, seemingly fused with the metal, indicate a process where the stone and iron became one in a prehistoric furnace. Yet, there are no nearby relics of smelting workshops, no ancient slag heaps, and no ruins of the massive industry needed to forge such a network. The silence of the archaeological record around Mount Baigong is as deep as the lake that keeps its secrets. It is in this vacuum of hard evidence that the labyrinth of theories begins to unfold, each one stranger than the last. The first, most rational camp of geologists proposes that these are not pipes at all, but iron-rich fossilized tree roots. In this theory, Ancient trees were buried in a sandy flood, their roots rotting in an iron-saturated slurry, slowly turning into mineral casts over eons. They point to the organic residue in the analysis and the branching structure as proof of a purely botanical origin, a petrified forest of phantom plumbing. However, this explanation struggles to account for the metallic ring, the high-temperature fusion signatures, and the circular uniformity that resembles cast pipes. Fossilized roots usually form solid masses, not hollow conduits, and the darkness of the empty pipe shafts seems to whisper a different story. Another hypothesis leans toward a geological quirk of nature, a rare concretion process where iron-rich lava filled prehistoric fissures like molten solder. As the surrounding softer rock eroded away over the ages, these hardened iron channels were left standing, a natural casting born of volcanic heat and water. Yet, the geographical location of Mount Baigong does not perfectly align with the massive volcanic activity needed to produce such extensive columnar iron deposits. Where the logical models start to crack, the more mesmerizing speculations begin to seep into the conversation. You can feel the weight of impossibility pressing down on the research teams, forcing them to peer further into the unsettling void. Eyes turn to the legendary Pyramid Plateau nearby, a structure whose geometric angularity forms a sharp contrast with the worn, rolling hills. Some researchers theorize that the pipes could be the exhalation tubes of a vast buried prehistoric city, a technological civilization lost to a cataclysm. In this quiet corner of China, the imagination fires up, painting pictures of ancient masters who harnessed geothermic energy or pumped lake water through the mountain. There is no genetic memory of such a race, no written record, merely the scorched evidence of iron veins locked inside the planet's skin. A darker hypothesis, unprovable and yet visually compelling, suggests the pipes are the remnants of an alien infrastructure. Ufologists claim the rusted conduits resemble extraterrestrial landing pad cooling systems or the broken umbilicals of a crashed vessel consumed by time. They compare the chemical anomalies to solidified rocket fuel residue, a claim that mainstream science dismisses but cannot fully erase from the public imagination. It is easy to laugh off such cosmic explanations in the safety of a lecture hall, but laughter fades into unease when you trace the rust with your trembling fingers. Human consciousness has a fragile relationship with objects that refuse to be categorized, and the Baigong pipes are masterpieces of ambiguity. Dedicated investigators have spent years trying to map the subterranean path of these channels, using ground-penetrating radar to pierce the rock's opacity. The readings come back incoherent, a tangled mess of echoes that suggest the labyrinth below is far more complex than the surface suggests. Mount Baigong does not yield its secrets to radar scans. It hoards them in a tangled core of metal and magnetic interference. Each new expedition chips away a few more samples, hoping that a sliver of rust will finally submit to a definitive origin story. But the frustration is a physical weight in the thin desert air, a hunger for an answer that recedes like a mirage with every step forward. Historians of science recall a saying, "The most dangerous phrase in science is not a lie, it is a mystery that looks unsolvable." And this site in the Gobi Desert edges dangerously close to appearing unsolvable by our current models of the ancient world. The local folklore, which once held no value in the stern eyes of academia, now seems to carry a sliver of ancestral memory. Whispers of a white dragon that fell from the sky, its breath burning the stone and leaving behind a spine of metal, drift through the nomadic winds. We often dismiss myth as a distortion of natural fear, But perhaps in the echo of those old stories, a factual trauma is disguised as poetry. Imagine standing before the cave entrance as dusk swallows the light, the pipe's mouth a perfect black circle against the stone. The air cools rapidly, and a low moan sometimes escapes the mountain's vents, a natural wind harmonic that feels unnervingly like a mechanical hum. You realize that the human obsession with this anomaly is not merely academic. It is a profound existential ache for clarity. We are driven by a need to know that our story of civilization is complete, that there are no forgotten chapters written in unbreakable iron. The Baigong pipes are a direct challenge to that ego, a silent mechanical laugh echoing from a time before our gods were even born. Some archaeologists have spent their entire careers circling this single hill, their own lives becoming a footnote in the long, patient stare of the mountain. The mountain does not care for human ambition. It guards its iron veins with the same indifference it shows to the shifting sands. But in the age of instant information, the blurry photographs and shocked testimonies circulate endlessly, recruiting new armies of curious minds. The true toll of the mystery is measured in human obsession, the weary eyes of a geologist who has stared at the iron matrix for 30 years. She sees not a pipe, but a tear in the fabric of geological determinism, a flaw that makes her question every formed rock she has ever touched. There is a fear that comes with finding something too advanced for its estimated time, a physical dread that our past is a lie. If these pipes are not fossil roots but a true artificial construct, then the entire foundation of our historical chronology shudders. We would have to accept that a race of engineers walked this earth, mastered fire and forge, and then vanished, leaving only this rusted breath. The concept of cyclical civilization, where humanity has risen to high technology only to be ground to dust, becomes a terrifyingly plausible nightmare. The weathered stone of the pyramid-like crag nearby offers no comfort. It is a monument to a builder whose name was erased by wind. Every rusty flake that falls from the pipe carries a lost memory, a degradation of molecular evidence that brings the truth further from our grasp. The silence of the desert is the most truthful sound of the Baigong pipes, a mute testimony to the limits of carbon dating and conjecture. Time, like sand, flows over everything, and the deep rust is proof that we are often just a moment too late to ask the questions. The more we analyze, the more the object reacts with our atmosphere, degrading the very clues we seek, a slow-motion suicide of evidence. This is the tragedy of the Baigong pipes. The act of discovery is also an act of accelerated decay, a race against decay we are losing. Perhaps that is the ultimate purpose of the mystery, not to be solved, but to remind us of the infinite depth of our own ignorance. In a world where every answer seems a search query away, Mount Baigong stands as a monument to the unknowable. The shadows lengthen over the iron pipes, and the cold of the high desert night begins to seal the metal in a sheath of frost. Sand particles, lifted by the wind, sandblast the exterior smoothly, polishing the riddle for the next century of silent contemplation. We tell ourselves that time reveals all things. But as you look upon these fossilized conduits, you see only a tightening knot of confusion. There is a comfort in believing history is a solved puzzle until you stand at the edge of this salt lake and hear the water lapping against metal pipes. The pipes descend into the brackish water, suggesting a pumping system, a lost purpose that will never drink again. What heat drove this machine? What liquid flowed through these cool, dark corridors when the world was young and ice sheets ruled the north? The Baigong pipes are not just a Chinese anomaly, they are a universal haunting, a whisper that our Stone Age might not have been so primitive after all. As the stars wheel over the Gobi Desert, the iron in the ground shimmers faintly, a metal heartbeat that refuses to die. The enigma endures, a rust-clogged clockwork that has stopped at an hour we cannot read on the face of human history. Future technologies might one day crack the chemical code, but for now, the pipes belong to the realm of the philosopher, not the laboratory. They invite you to consider the impermanence of greatness, the way a mighty civilization can be reduced to a drainage pipe in a barren cliff. The final chilling thought is not that the pipes are alien or magical, but that they are the last gasp of a story we have utterly lost. A story of fire, engineering, and a world that ended so completely that only rust and rock remained to speak for it. So when you listen closely to the wind blowing through those hollow tubes in the night, you are hearing the fossilized voice of our own forgotten possibility.